The voice of the people is the voice of God. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing.
From the house of the rising sun, the first woman prime minister, the first woman attorney general, the first woman to lead a parliamentary political party, the first woman opposition leader, introducing the revolutionary people's leader, Kamala Prasad Visesa.
The People's Revolution.
Thank you once again for joining us for yet another virtual report of the United National Congress. We continue to use every avenue available so we can keep you up to date and updated as we bring the truth to you in these reports. I thank my colleagues who have spoken before me for tonight's report and thank them for their loyalty and commitment to the United National Congress. Today we want to let you know, or let the PNM know, that the days of 9 days wonders are over. You know, there's a thing, they say 7-day wonder, some say 9-day wonder, that no matter what is the issue, it just goes away. But we will make sure that these troubling issues do not go away. As much as they would like to keep us in the dark, we have to let you know what is happening. So that is what our People's Revolution is about. We will not forget the roads and the bridges that they have neglected for years, the schools they have not opened, the by-election due in the Penal Debe Regional Corporation, over 8 months since there has been no representation. And just before I came downstairs, I checked my emails and I received an email. I had written to the Attorney General and to the Minister of Local Government calling for the by-election to take place, because more than 7 months, going in 8 months, and I'd written to them in my capacity as a lawyer on behalf of a client, Nicholas Rampasad, who is a voter in that electoral district. So I just checked the email, and the Attorney General is responding. And I haven't digested fully the response, but basically saying, look, don't take any legal action. There's the Delta strain, and this is like long after I'd sent this letter. In the meantime, events have already overtaken their response. So like the left hand of the AG doesn't know what the right hand, again, is left foot, right foot, ballot issues. So whilst they're writing to me in my capacity as a lawyer, at the same time on Monday last, that said client, through another lawyer, through the firm of Anand Ramlogan and Company, they have actually filed the matter in court. And they are engaged, the Prime Minister is engaged and his whole team in Tobago in an election campaign. Yet the AG's response through their lawyers is to say, reconsider, don't file. I'm sorry, it's already filed. The client has another lawyer, and I'm sure you will now have to respond to that low case and tell him you don't want to hold an election. What hypocrisy. That is the hypocrisy of this PNM and dictator Rowley. In Tobago, 2 elections in 1 year, and yet you cannot do 1 by-election, where a vacancy has arisen. So we call upon you, do not suppress our democracy, Dictator Rowley. Let us act with transparency. Let us act with equality of treatment in the law and under the law. So that one set cannot be saying geographic discrimination because you're from Penal Debe Regional Corporation, no election, and you're in Tobago campaigning. How can that be right? So we call upon you to do the correct thing. You have delayed long enough. Tell the president, let the president know to issue the election writ and call an election date. So we will use, as I say, every constitutional means, every chance we get in the parliament, every chance we get outside the parliament. We will use every legal means we know, and we know that these efforts face uphill battles because the PNM have compromised all our independent institutions and even the Constitution itself to limit the power of the opposition. However, if all legal, constitutional, and parliamentary efforts are thwarted or ignored, that then only leaves us with the politics, and we will engage in the politics. We will not stop. Dictator Rowley, I put you on notice that the 9-day wonder is no more. You and your accomplices, Wantier, Dial Singh, Faris Al Rental, Recusal Twin Stewart, Credit Card Camille, Morva Mansion, My Heinz, whatever, and the rest, cannot run and hide or distract from your misdeeds. We will hold you all to account. Let's take note, as we come out of this weekend, of the very grim statistics recorded with respect to COVID. This weekend, we lost 48 citizens in 48 hours to COVID. Each death is unfortunate, and it is even greater suffering and misery when we learn that one of those who died was a child. My heart goes out to the families of all those who lost loved ones to the virus. We saw also another thing happening. In addition to the 28 COVID deaths, we also saw over 500 new infections. Something is clearly wrong. Something is clearly wrong. Ever since the state of emergency was declared, the deaths have skyrocketed. In the year and a half from January 2020 to May 21, there were 200 deaths in total. For the 6 months of lockdown, the deaths skyrocketed, taking us to a total of 1,700 deaths in the past year. What is going on? We cannot keep doing the same things in the same way with the same people and expect it to change. In fact, it's getting worse. So it's the same failed medical team. We call upon again for a commission of inquiry into government's handling of the crisis, and we continue to make that call. We need to know why these people are dying. We need to hold those who are accountable to account, whether it be the Prime Minister, the Health Minister, Davlin Thomas, and obviously this very same failed health team. Dictator Rowley must stop shifting the blame to the UNC. He is in charge, remember? He must remember that he's in charge. They told us with no uncertain names, you created this mess, you clean up your mess. From the very day the pandemic was declared on 31st January 2020, we tried in the Parliament. We were in the forefront, and the PNM lagged behind us. This has been a deadly disaster for our country. We will not let it drop as another 9-day wonder. Those in authority must be held accountable. They cannot shift blame to the opposition, who we are not controlling any aspect of the health system. And it is clear, if we will, our team and the country would not be in this deadly position we are in now. The failed COVID team I speak about again, as we face this disaster, 2,000 deaths, over 65,000 cases. Most since the state of emergency was declared. Yet the health team pretends they're doing an excellent job. They pat themselves on the back, well done, well done. We saw a beaming CMO recently posing for photos receiving an honorary doctorate. However, just a few days ago, he downplayed the urgency of the out-of-control deaths and infections. They have no solutions. They have no plans. It's the same failed speeches, every press conference, every day. So the question is, are they for real? Can we continue to place our confidence and trust in them? And my answer is no. Some change needs to be done. You cannot do the same thing in the same way with the same people and expect better results. In fact, the results are now worse. So something has to give. The healthcare system is in crisis, and they are too concerned with having their skins, saving their skins, looking good, and protecting the government. Meanwhile, in seeming reward for this unprofessional behavior, for being a PNM puppet, we see that another member of that failed cover-up team, Dr. Richards, is being favored. She was recently appointed to a state board. This is yet another state board. This is her third state board appointment. Let us understand what that means. It is not only about her misuse of her time and concentration, because she should be focusing on the COVID disaster, given her key professional role in the health sector. It is not only about her amassing more and more taxpayer dollars with these very questionable appointments. I want to raise the issue of Dictator Rowley's undermining of our institutions yet again. As principal medical officer, she is bound by the public service regulations, which mandate that she be non-political. This separation is crucial to our Republican Constitution, the separation of powers. To ensure that political partisanship does not pervade everything housing, education, employment, down to health. This is where we must have that separation of powers. However, now the principal medical officer has 3 other jobs to do, and the health sector is in crisis. Principal medical officer Dr. Richards has 3 other jobs to execute government policy on these 3 state boards. So how can she be politically independent in the provision of health, but at the same time earning income and doing what? Implementing government policy on 3 state boards. How can you do it? Obviously, this person is a tool of government and a favored one at that. Wanted the Singh, watch out. The talk is that she is coming to replace you as a candidate in St. Joseph. So take notice. I'm deeply worried about the state of our health sector under these people. Things are not only going to get worse because they do not have a plan to slow the spread of the virus. The whole failed medical team and Wanted the Singh must go. Lives are at stake. I need to speak a little about the so-called independent senators and what may well be a conspiracy against UNC senators in our parliament. While dictator Rowley causes hundreds of unnecessary deaths by controlling and politicizing the supposedly independent and instigated medical team, we have the supposed independent senators also doing the PNM's dirty work. So-called independent Senator Anthony Vera has moved a motion against all UNC senators, which is to be debated in the Senate this week. This motion, as I said before, has no substance whatsoever. As a lawyer, Vera should be embarrassed and ashamed of himself. The motion has no particulars. It is poorly constructed. It wrongly seeks to deal with an electoral college matter, and I don't even know if that was an electoral college. It was a joint sitting of both houses of parliament. The jury is still out on whether it was an electoral college meeting or joint sitting. The section 36 itself speaks about a joint sitting and not an electoral college matter. So he's seeking to raise the senator, so-called independent Vera, something that transpired when both houses of the parliament met to debate a section 36 motion. And at that time, when he sat there, he sat through that joint sitting, he's now raised this motion in the Senate to deal with something that occurred in a joint sitting. Why didn't he object then? You would have been sitting in that parliament for the joint sitting. If things went wrong, you had procedure and protocol for the parliamentary sitting, you could have raised it. You stayed quiet like a little mouse and then ran outside there to call the opposition and senators and the whole opposition, you and your colleagues, some of them, to a bad mouth. I told you before, sir, if you want to enter the political guile, we will deal with you in the political guile. And so I say your motion is embarrassing and shameful from every angle. It doesn't have, as I say, any particulars. It doesn't name anyone. You went one brush all the senators. And then let's see how you're going to prosecute that motion. It is embarrassing, I say, and shameful from every angle. However, Senator Vera has openly compromised, in my respectful view, the president's senators. By attacking all UNC senators without any specifics and seeking a motion of censure, Senator Vera is placing the so-called independent senators within a PNM scheme. Within a PNM scheme, you are now creating a bench. The independents have never, the so-called independents have never operated as a bench in the parliament. Each one is an individual and is expected to conduct himself or herself in a very transparent, independent manner. So let's see what's going to happen. Never mind that motion has absolutely no merit. In a kangaroo court, it can be pushed through. This is because the Senate is not an oversight body, independent of the lower house, as it is supposed to be. It is a fake oversight institution, firmly under the control of the PNM, and getting more so with each passing day. So they may censor all opposition centers, but it won't stop there. They may act as a tag team, the PNM and these so-called independents. The PNM may then recommend that the opposition centers be suspended for the rest of the session. And that means it takes us till next September. You see, Dictator Rowley and the PNM want to govern with absolutely no opposition. And this is part of the way that they could try to do it. Senator Vera may well be part of a plot, and we wait to see if the other presidential senators will play along. we have taken a decision. We will not describe these senators as independent senators. They are so-called independents. They are definitely presidential senators. So let's get rid of that word. Nowhere in the Constitution does it speak to independent senators. And that traditional protocol has long been breached by this present crop of so-called independent senators. They are indeed, let it be known, presidential senators. The president selects, recruits, appoints, and or disappoints, as the case may be. So let's see what happens. Let me assure the population that even if our parliamentary options are exhausted, even if our legal options become exhausted, even if our constitutional options become exhausted, we will use our political options to fight for your democracy and our democracy. We will not let Keith Rowley establish a dictatorship in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why we have pledged to continue with our People's Revolution. This has been happening all over the country, continuously since I made that call on the 21st October of this year. The People's Revolution is to restore and rebuild democracy in Trinidad and Tobago. Rebuild and restore democracy in Trinidad and Tobago by holding the government to account, and we do so inside Parliament, outside of Parliament, and we do so by not letting dictator Rowley get away with any 9-day wonder phenomenon. We already have had some successes. Dictator Rowley was forced to announce the by-election in Davis South. This after 8 months. I mentioned to you before, after 8 months. Only after protests took place outside the PDRC building down in South, we saw the Prime Minister announce that he would relent, that the date would be coming soon. So I find it passing strange, as I told you when I started, that I've received this letter from the AG's lawyers about this very matter with a totally different point of view. Whom should we believe, the AG's lawyers or the Prime Minister? I believe none of them. We will go to court. The matter is in the court. And if they fail to name a date, the court will take that decision on our behalf and in justice and democracy for Trinidad and Tobago. So the concern about Tobago, that's fine. I'm happy for Tobago. But they didn't care about the lack of representation in that Davis South seat in the Penal Davis Corporation. So he has come out. He said clearly the date is coming. So we await that date. And never mind, matter is still in the court. I told you that we, the People's Revolution, will not only be inside Parliament, but also outside of the Parliament. And equally, our struggle was not only to be inside TNT, but to take that struggle internationally, as we are also part of the international community. In this regard, and in my capacity as political leader of the UNC, I had recently written to several international organizations, of which TNT is a member. One of these is Parliamentarians for Global Action, based in New York City, where the global headquarters of the UN is located. I've received a rapid response from PGA, and they are very concerned with what is happening here in Trinidad and Tobago. I will read this letter from the PGA's Mr. David Donat Katin. He's the Secretary General of the Parliamentarians for Global Action. This is a copy of the letter which I'll share with you. This is from Mr. Donat Katin, who is Secretary General, as I said, to the PGA, Parliamentarians for Global Action. So let me share the letter with you. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, etc. And he writes as follows. I read this for you. I profoundly thank you for having shared with Parliamentarians for Global Action this extremely important letter, which goes at the heart of the mandate of our global parliamentary organization, committed to human rights, democracy, justice, equality, including and international peace and security under the rule of law. You are raising very serious issues of attacks to democratic principles and practices in your country, which I am hereby submitting to the attention of the Parliamentary Rapid Response Team of PGA, regarding which we will take appropriate action under the PGA's Democratic Renewal and Human Rights Campaign. The letter continues. At this preliminary stage, let me stress that you are reporting two very dangerous forms of attacks to democracy that can be defined as abuses of power by the executive, which, if not adequately halted and reversed, might bring about the transformation of Trinidad and Tobago a vibrant democracy within CARICOM and the OAS that has been constitution a shield against the autocratic and dictatorial trends in the region, such as those stemming from neighboring Venezuela into an authoritarian state. This letter continues, and I continue to quote, "The first form of abuse of power is represented by the government's weaponization of the prosecutorial and investigative prerogatives attributed to the police, which shall remain an independent institution against the opposition. The second form of abuse of power regards Parliament and is represented by repeated efforts by the executive to weaken the oversight and legislative functions of Parliament." The letter continues, "Please be assured that the PGA team will be working on a more detailed response to your letter and indicate some proposed courses of action in a separate letter. Please accept, Honourable Leader, the assurances of our esteemed, sincerely, David Donat Cattin, Secretary General, PGA." So this is a letter that we received in response, and we look forward to their more detailed response, but clearly we are taking the struggle and we are taking the People's Revolution locally, regionally, and internationally. This is a very powerful letter, and I'm putting Dictator Rowley on notice. The People's Revolution is here, and it is working. We in the UNC are doing everything in our power to confront the major challenges to our democracy. We will continue so to do. So whilst we are working to protect our democracy and our republic, Dictator Rowley is destroying our society, he's destroying our lives, and destroying our economy. Right now, even the Minister of Finance, Minister Tax Break Imbert, is busy trying to spin. Tax Break Imbert knows that their mismanagement and squandermania have caused the worst economic crisis our country has ever seen, and he's trying to cover up their incompetence. Tax Break Imbert wants to convince people that everything is great, there is nothing to worry about. Important sections of another supposedly independent institution, the media, has also been compromised by the PNM. The finance minister got sections of the media to spin the recent IMF statement on the conclusion of their Article 4 consultations held here in TNT. And that headline, "IMF praises government's COVID management," was one newspaper's front page. But this is what they actually said. So that's the newspaper's opinion headline. And this is what the IMF said, and I quote, "The mission encouraged the authorities to remove all restrictions on current international transactions while providing sufficient forex to meet demand for all current international transactions." Did you hear that? The mission encouraged the authorities to remove all restrictions on current international transactions while providing sufficient forex to meet demand for all current international transactions. The IMF is voicing, acknowledging what every small business owner has been saying for years under this Rowley government. On top of all the red tape and taxes the PNM are inflicting on small businesses, Rowley has created a forex crisis as well. Nobody can get enough forex to run their business. And meanwhile, the central bank governor, Alvin Hillier, is busy buying a $1 million apartment in Tobago from Rowley's best friend. And I told you last week, I have the documents here. Not today, we'll do it another day. But I put Mr. Hillier on notice. He has also bought in Inesgate, just like Speaker Bridget Aniset George, just as her husband bought. This is the file. It comprises 46 townhouses. I've told you the owners of one is the Mr. Newman George. And today I'm telling you, Alvin Hillier, governor of the central bank, buying a townhouse for over $1 million from Mr. Rowley's best friend. I wonder if the contractor who sold the central bank governor that apartment had any problems getting foreign exchange. But if you are really putting millions in forex into the economy, as you say, where is it going? The IMF wants to know, and we want to know. This week, international ratings agency Moody's also released its rating action. They downgraded our ratings to BA2 from BA1. And don't bother with the spin and distraction of whether it is negative or stable. Moody's downgraded TNT's credit rating to BA2, down to BA2. If you're at the bottom of an economic pit and you are stable, it simply means that you're staying at the bottom of the pit. Ba2 means, and I quote, obligations rated Ba2 are judged to have speculative elements and are subject to substantial credit risk. Therefore, when we are looking to borrow, TT will be seen as substantially risky. We are rated as junk status in the financial world. This is where 6 years under dictator Rowley has brought us, to junk status. A junk economy, a junk government has transformed us into a junk economy. Thanks to dictator Rowley and the PNM, we will pay high rates for loans that the next generation, you young people, will still be paying long after dictator Rowley and his bunch have gone. Rowley has spent $5 billion. Rowley has spent $5 billion taxpayers' dollars, but he cannot tell us where it all went. $5 billion was spent, and yet they have cut disability assistance for families. $5 billion, you can't get disability for your families. $5 billion spent, yet businesses are still owed their VAT refunds, their own money. They're still owed VAT refunds to keep these businesses going. $5 billion have been spent, yet in August, the business chambers informed us of 6,000 businesses permanently shut under this Rowley government. $5 billion spent. We do not disagree, but where we disagree is that this has had the impact of protecting the most vulnerable and saving jobs. Has it helped that? Saving the jobs and protecting the most vulnerable. This is what dictatorship Rowley is about. Money, money, money for him, his friends, their families, and financiers. And nobody must ask them anything, stop them, or challenge them in any way, shape, or form. But I warn them again. We have this file. Mr. Warner, your best friend, Inez Gate. And not today, but another day, we will share more of the contents. And Dictator Rowley, this is your file. This is much heavier. This is a heavier file, Dictator Rowley. We will share more with you. So whilst you all are busy fixing friends, family, and financiers, the most vulnerable are the ones suffering the most. So I put you on notice. In conclusion, we are not letting that happen without a fight here. We will not stop fighting. I want to acknowledge all the acts of defiance against this PNM, the tyranny of the PNM. All across the country, people are peacefully protesting the discrimination and attacks on our democracy by dictator Rowley and the PNM. The People's Revolution will continue as long as the threat to our democracy and way of life remains. The UNC will never stop fighting for the rights and freedoms of all the people of TNT. The PNM feels that, as I said at the start, that we are 9-day wonder, that we soon forget the incremental challenges and we will become a dictatorship when it is too late to do anything about it. They believe that. They feel they can control all institutions in TNT, including the TTPS and the Fourth Estate, so they feel they can do as they please. But I give you that assurance again. We give you that assurance. We will ensure that the world is aware of what is taking place in our beloved TNT. We'll fight them in the parliament. We'll fight them in the streets. We'll fight them with all our might, day and night, incessantly, persistently, in TNT and abroad. And with our very last chance and last ounce of strength which the Creator has given us, we shall never, ever surrender. Once again, I ask you to join us in the People's Revolution as we fight for our beloved country. On December 12th, come out and show the PNM that you have had enough. Enough is enough. 12th December, we'll share more details on our People's Revolution rally, 12th December this year. Please come out and show your support, and details will be shared on our Facebook and our website, the UNC website, and through your MPs and your councillors. So the time is now. Stand up and let your voices be heard. Thank you very much. Good night and God bless. Thank you.
The voice of the people is the voice of God. The tables are turning, your eyes are opening. Welcome to the revolution.
People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom.
We want freedom.
Everybody crying out for democracy.
Democracy's under attack.
Now it's time to take a stand. Yeah.
Come on!
Cause this is the revolution. The people's revolution. This is the revolution. Let's unite and stand for something. This is the revolution. The people's revolution. revolution. This is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people.
Come on,
Come on, people.
let's move.
Come on, people.
Come on,
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
people crying out for justice.
Some of them crying out for freedom.
Everybody crying out for democracy.
Now it's time to take a stand, yeah.
Come on! Cause this is the revolution. The people's revolution. This is the revolution.
Let's unite and stand for something.
This is the revolution. The people's revolution. This is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
The people's revolution.